Hello and welcome to the Chatter Cave podcast. After a little brief break, we sadly didn't do Dominion because we kind of kept postponing it. By the time it got into Dominion, it was like it's been a few days. Probably best to wait till
you can watch it again.
You can watch it again. So I don't mind waiting a day after watching something. It was like 3 days, and it was like no. And obviously then I got ill, so yay.
You were slowly dying.
I was slowly dying of tonsillitis, so I couldn't speak. So yeah, we are back. Obviously, as usual, I'm your host, drinking Thomas Hughes. Obviously, I love you, Hayden, aka Lickley, with me here. And today we're doing something we actually watched yesterday.
That's true.
Brand new released.
Yeah.
Elvis.
John. What?
That was Elvis. It's not Rocket Man.
I watched the wrong film.
It's not Rocket Man. Calm down, Dan. No, Elvis, the 2022 biopic by Baz Luhrmann. Is that how you pronounce his name? I can't remember. The guy who did Romeo and Juliet. So, DiCaprio one. Great Gatsby. You know, the DiCaprio one.
Yeah.
Recently he did Australia as well, did he? With Hugh Jackman? I could be wrong. Don't quite me.
DiCaprio.
I know sadly I've run out of DiCaprio movies he's done. He did Moulin Rouge as well. So, he's used to this sort of musical vibe, and obviously telling tales that have been told before. So obviously he's doing Elvis, which for me is kind of a big deal because growing up in my family, it's the one artist you grew up around listening to, like fucking every time you get into your granddad's car is Elvis. I've seen most of his movies. I mean, if you walk out there right now and walk straight towards the stairs, there is loads of Elvis movies.
Oh.
So obviously this is something that as soon as they announced, I was like, okay, so they're gonna have to get this right, or most of my family are probably gonna crucify the shit out of them. Which reminds me, I haven't asked yet what my uncle thought of it, because I know he went. As far as I'm aware, he went to watch it as well. It was the same day we, but on the night, I haven't yet found out. But his actual response, because obviously he's Elvis mad, so he'd be someone who you see slight thing like, no, don't like that, don't like that's not right. So I kind of want to know his response to that. But my response to it is pretty positive. I haven't seen many biopics. I've seen a few. Rocket Man, Straight Outta Compton, Bohemian Rhapsody, Elvis. Pretty soon that's maybe all the music biopics I've ever actually seen.
Yeah.
So I'm not the biggest music biopic as soon as one comes out I need to watch that. But obviously most of the big name ones I go, okay, I'll give that a watch. Most of them walk away and go, that's pretty good. Rocket Man was the exception. It was meh. But again, not an Elton John fan. But this is when I walked out of going, you know what? I really fucking enjoyed myself. It's 2 hours 40, so it's fucking quite a long biopic. I think it's about the same length as the Kurt Russell Elvis biopic that I did in the 70s, which I still need to watch because he was directed by John Carpenter. He did a non-horror film about an Elvis biopic. I still need to fucking watch it. So it's about as long as the 70s version. And obviously this sort of thing's been touched on many times before from different people. So it's an interesting fresh eyes take on it in the modern time, which you can tell by watching it. It's very modernised.
Oh, definitely.
But the fact that they utilise a lot of obviously his music, but then they give it a modernised twist.
There's different artists. There's one where Doja Cat was doing a cover of his song.
Yeah, it's they merged them all into sort of one, which is quite an interesting technique. So a lot of these obviously biopics, they just straight up just use the normal song. That's it.
Yeah.
Like I say, Bohemian Rhapsody, they just straight up used the Queen songs. Rocket Man, they straight up used Elton John songs. Straight Outta Compton, they straight up obviously utilised obviously the NWA songs. Whereas this, they didn't fully. Yes, they did use a lot of his music, but they did modernised takes on it, which is something a bit different.
I think it's to show how he inspired all those inspired modern music and how it changed it.
So it's something that I didn't expect going to. I just expected them to utilise his normal music. Obviously, just merge his old music with obviously Austin Butler singing it. So I know he did a lot of the singing. Obviously, they just merged his voice within obviously the Elvis music itself. So that was quite different. When I heard the first one, I was like, oh, okay, that's something a bit different. I kind of like that. It's new. So I'm gonna give it a thumbs up there.
Mm.
But obviously, the number of times when it's obviously not like a modernised remix, when it's actual, obviously, Austin Butler's voice merged with Elvis's
Yeah.
voice, is pretty good as well, because obviously Austin Butler does a really good job of bringing Elvis to life.
Mm.
Because it's one of those things where you look at a lot of artists when they do obviously like biopics of them. Some of them are quite easy to bring to life. Like it's not that difficult to get that sort of character like to life.
Mm.
Whereas Elvis, it's quite a iconic
Yeah.
person. Because if you, for example, if you look at like, Straight Outta Compton, the NWA one, they utilised Ice Cube's own son to bring him to life.
Mm.
So they were able to bring an actual blood relative to actually play that character. Whereas this, it's not that case.
Mm.
Obviously, you have to get someone to try and bring Elvis to life, and he really does sound like him a lot of the times, which is pretty good. And I think he does a really good job, especially since obviously the only things I remember from is Aliens in the Attic. He's not like this massive star. Yeah, he did that Tarantino movie
Yeah.
where obviously he played obviously one of the Manson cult followers, but he's not a massive star. So like this, you'd think you'd get a massive star like
Yeah.
obviously Rocket Man got Taron Egerton,
Mm.
Bohemian Rhapsody got Rami Malek, and the NWA got a few obviously well-known obviously stars. Corey Hawkins, who was that before or after The Walking Dead? I can't remember off the top of my head. And obviously in general Ice Cube's son, so you know, yeah, he's not a massive star at that point, but you know he's Ice Cube's son, so people go, oh, okay. Whereas this Austin Butler's not a massive star, and it is a lot of responsibility on the shoulder to become Elvis.
Mm.
And as an Elvis fan, I'd give him a thumbs up on that because he did a really good job. And obviously from a non-Elvis fan's perspective,
Yeah. It's actually quite fun to watch. Like at first, I thought it'd be a little bit boring because I don't really
and so you only went because I went.
care.
So I was like, hey, you want a ticket?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll go.
Sure. Like I don't really have that much of a care. I was watch a film. It was actually really good. Like it was interesting to see how the character evolved throughout the entire show and the like rise and fall.
Yeah,
That was quite fun.
the rise and fall of obviously Elvis. From obviously when you first meet him as a kid, even though he doesn't show you first as a kid, he shows him as an adult. But obviously from a kid to obviously this big rock star who dies.
Yeah, you can see how like his like environment shaped how his like beliefs and like how he didn't care about like all the race stuff that like a lot of the people around him did.
Yeah,
There's a big thing. The reason why people were hating on him because he was basically taking black culture and making it
he's obviously a big part of black culture.
Yeah, and they didn't like that. In fact, they attacked him, and you could see how he, instead of like backing away from it, like
He wanted to push further into it.
he wanted to stay true to himself.
Yeah,
instead of doing.
so,
Exactly
I mean,
what...
obviously that's the thing it shows you. It shows you him obviously going to this part of him where he just want to be obviously in the suit, like normal suit with a dog, which for some reason, but it's like no, I want to actually wiggle. And obviously, because that's his big thing, which is obviously the funny part of this film is obviously all the women just like gushing over him, just like wiggling his legs, and we're like, oh, there's one point he just shows them all throwing underwear on the fucking stage. All I could think of at that point was a Peter Griffin one with the Beatles, and he throws his underwear. There's like a massive pair of like I can't remember which Beatles it was. He was like, he's like, sorry, I rode a bike here. That's all I could think of. He's throwing for like a massive pair of bloomers or something, or even some men's underwear. It's like, what the fuck? I do like seeing that. Obviously, how just like these slight things. Obviously, he's moving his legs. Because a lot of obviously singers were doing that at the time. They're just like standing there, which is shown obviously with that first guy. You see that I can't remember the singer's name. He's just a basic like playing guitar, and that was it. Whereas this is someone who's playing guitar, but he's fully like getting involved with the crowd, like going towards them, dancing.
And the idea is like, it's something that the girls at the time they never saw. Yeah,
because obviously this is something he's taken from black culture. Obviously, watching as a kid, obviously seeing a lot of people their movements.
Yeah.
So especially with obviously that church scene when he's in that tent, and obviously he obviously gets
they're all getting the music,
they're all amped up,
their body
and which is what he does, and obviously that's why he hates it when he can't do that. So obviously he's just like, no, screw that, I'm doing it, and obviously he has that whole comeback tour on stage, which obviously is what revived him to everyone. And it is pretty cool to watch because it's interesting to watch as well because it's not from his perspective. It's obviously
Yeah.
from Colonel Tom Parker, obviously played by Tom Hanks in a villainous role. Because obviously even states at the end, obviously
Yeah.
how he basically used Elvis for the money. Basically, he was like manipulating him and everything, which is because obviously something you see throughout. And I like the fact that throughout as well, he's constantly trying to say, "Oh, I didn't kill Elvis," but it's
Yeah.
clearly that you, as you're watching, you're clearly like, you kind of are. I mean, you're pumping him full of drugs to keep him awake.
He's basically saying, "I didn't kill Elvis. You lot did with all your love for him." And
Yeah,
it's like,
there's even that whole one.
no.
There's even that whole scene where obviously he passes out backstage when he's trying.
Yeah.
Which you don't fully understand at first because it just shows that quite early on and passed out and head in the water, and he's like the doctor get a needle in him to get him on that stage fucking now. But obviously when it fully goes back to that at the end, obviously it shows him in like a normal conversation before he passes out, and it's kind of the case of they're like saying that woman's like if this was my son, I'd take him to a hospital.
Yeah.
And obviously Tom Hanks' Colonel Parker looks at obviously Elvis's dad is like, what do you want to do? And he sort of the eyes he gives him is sort of like,
do what I want.
Yeah, do you know what I want you to do? And obviously he's like, well, I'll get him on stage. He's usually like to the doctor. He's like, what can you do for him? And it's that all that stuff is what's pumped him to take obviously all these pills he's constantly taking, which ruined his marriage, and obviously eventually drove him to obviously death.
Yeah.
And it is quite interesting to see this from someone else's perspective who's constantly trying to say they're not the one who killed him.
Oh yeah.
But you're constantly watching his actions where you're like, he kind of is. You're kind of suffocating him. I mean, there's a whole part when everyone around is like, we need an international tour. We need to go international.
Because he can't.
Japan offered like $1 million. In Germany or something like that.
Yeah, Germany and Japan.
They offered like $1 million for like a concert for one night.
Yeah.
And he's constantly, no, security. We
can't do
he's
like,
that. Oh, and he's like manipulating them to the point of, okay, we do like a 15. We do a 15 like city tour in the US where I can handle security and it'd be fine. And then we'll obviously in that point in time you can sort of security outside of the US, and obviously to that point where it never happens, and he obviously the only way he gets international is that concert, which obviously is one of the obviously most famous Elvis moments. Obviously, the concert broadcast worldwide.
Yeah.
That's the only time he really goes international. But yeah, it is really interesting to watch, and I like how the ending starts with obviously Austin Butler as Elvis, and it merges into the footage of actual Elvis's last sort of performance before he died. And you see that from when you first see his first performance at the start when he's fully like into it, and to see that basically wreck of a man that can't even stand up. Someone's having to hold the microphone for him. It's like,
but he's still, like trying to give his best as he can.
Yeah, and it is interesting, obviously, to see this last stage.
Yeah.
Before obviously he passed away. And I like as well, there's not a Bohemian Rhapsody does. It shows him before he died, but it doesn't show him die. It just puts it on the screen saying such and such he passed away at this point in memory of him. So I like that it doesn't actually like this fully show him basically just die, because I could have just had him on the toilet and stuff. Pop a few pills dead. But no, they just obviously said that he died, and obviously then showed a lot of his footage, which is pretty nice. Before obviously merging into obviously one of his songs, which is a really nice way to end the film.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like it was 2 hours 40. A lot of films sometimes drag, but I didn't feel like this fully dragged. Yeah, there's some moments maybe, but it went by quite quick.
Yeah.
I mean, our show was what, 10 in the morning? We got in there at 10:10.
Yeah.
Cough, cough. And what we got out there we finished about 1, something like that. It flew by pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, like, we didn't even need like food or drinks.
No, it flew by. Well, we didn't have time.
Yeah, but like at the time, we were too focused on watching the actual film.
Damn, we didn't have the time to get stuff.
Yeah,
because someone slept in. Someone does an 11-hour night shift and is fine. Someone gets sleep, doesn't wake up.
Shut up.
But yeah, this one I was almost like gonna skip it, but then I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna go watch it. Elvis fan, I kind of want to see what it's like. I mean, I could wait for the Blu-ray release and just watch it at home, which in a couple of months' time.
Yeah,
I was just like, fuck it, I've got nothing to do on a Saturday. I'll go fucking watch it.
I think we needed to watch it in cinema though, because like there was moments like with the music where the bass were like
biopics, especially music. Some films have to be watched in cinema for obviously the music to come through properly.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Dune, I regret watching that just on the Blu-ray. I wish I went to watch that in cinema. I say Blu-ray, digital. I meant digital because I said I brought it. That's something as soon as I finished watching, I was like, it was good, but I feel like that would have been better on a big screen. Definitely. With the sound and everything. And this is one that I'm definitely glad I checked out on a big screen rather than in the comfort of my own home, because it is pretty good. I think the cinematography is pretty good as well. It's not like your basic cinematography. There's a lot of like really cool moments.
Experimental.
There's that whole bit when he's like singing "Viva Las Vegas," which obviously isn't sort of realistic. He's on the bus and the bus is going around and everything. But that was like a really cool like moment in their way of utilizing another one of his iconic songs. Because I could have just had him singing it in one of his concerts, as they were doing with a lot of the songs, but they didn't. They did like a weird like segment of him like on the back of a bus and like going around like pointing at who people are and everything and high five and like that was pretty cool. There's just a few other like really cool shots within the movie, which, as I say, a lot of biopics were just done like a normal sort of shot, like made it look realistic, whereas this didn't. It did a lot of shots where it was kind of not realistic.
Yeah,
but it works to get the oomph going, because obviously it's the director's sort of direction of it, because I know he does a lot of really cool stuff. So that sort of works for this movie, for being this sort of popping,
very
sort of rocking type movie. Like if it was just basic cinematography, it might have just been a bit but these sort of moments like catch your eyes and go, oh, that's pretty cool.
As a person, like, who was very stylized, like had very
stylized is the word I'm after.
So that's what the whole film is. Very like stylized, very flashy, but also very like not in a very like cheap way. Like it feels like what you would expect an Elvis Presley film to be. You know, very unique shots because he was a unique person. So it's like.
Yeah, I like as well with the shots a lot. There's quite a few shots where they managed to slowly merge them into make them look old.
Yeah,
like it's not fully like actual shots of Elvis from all those years ago. They just like sort of merge it to make it look like it was being filmed back then when it obviously like it was like. You can just slowly transitions into that graininess, and it doesn't feel like badly transitioned. It feels really well. That you notice, yes, that's the point. You need to notice it and go, oh yeah, that's like shot like really old, which is pretty cool. So that, I did like a lot of those sort of shots, because a lot of them are when he's obviously touring, obviously just going city to city. It sort of transitions into these sort of old shots just to showcase obviously the different tours he's on, which is pretty good. I think the supporting cast are really good in this as well. They all feel like they deserve to be there. They all feel like they're enhancing the story more. Obviously, the one who obviously plays his mom. She's a really good job of obviously trying to keep him down to earth, and at the same time sort of supporting him until the point obviously she passes away, and obviously just destroys him and gives Tom Hanks an excuse to try and worm his way even more into his mind.
And it's like, oh, I'll do what your mom did for you. Yes.
And then basically destroy you as well, because you're the whole point. This has happened because you were like, oh, put him in the army, and that's what kind of led his mom to drink, and then die. That's the thing. I don't know which parts I've kind of twisted a bit, because obviously some parts are probably twisted, so not fully like factual. So I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't know which parts are and which parts aren't.
Dramatized.
Yeah, like most biopics are. There's usually some moments where it's like that didn't happen like that, but it was very similar. So I don't know exactly that. Yeah. Again, that's when my uncle might come in and obviously he'd know. Yeah, that's not real. That did happen. That didn't happen. This did happen, but slightly different. But obviously, I don't know that. But obviously, from my perspective, watching it, obviously you're just watching basically Tom Hanks' character just destroy his entire family and everyone around, like pushing everyone away. Until the point, obviously, they get new people in to try and get Elvis back into the stage. Obviously, you get the guy from fucking Stranger Things and Power Rangers, Dak and Montgomery. he comes in, he's like, oh yeah, I'm running basically this like Christmas special, but we don't do a Christmas special. That's shit. We want to do an actual performance, and obviously he managed to persuade him to do the actual performance on the stage. So he comes out and does all his performance, pissed off everyone because it's not the Christmas special.
Yeah.
But obviously everyone around loves it, and then I love with that though. And he's obviously Elvis talking. He's like, oh, everyone loved it, and obviously Tom Hanks' character is like, that's all fake. That was there's applause things going. Obviously they're just doing that because they're being told to, but they're not. They actually are really into this performance.
You can tell the difference at the start when they actually were like,
they're
applauding as like it says to applaud.
Yeah, because that guy was saying, applause. Just okay, when it comes on, show us some applause. And everyone's just like, but when it's actually happening, they're fully like,
that's like
it was a proper concert.
Focus on him.
I do like that. I do like as well that whole bit when it's like, oh yeah, you're performing it tomorrow, and they're sort of like, okay. And it comes out, it set it all up, there's all the Christmas things, and it's like, oh yes, you all listen to me, thank you very much. And he's like, cue the sign, and Elvis comes walking out, the big massive Elvis sign, and then your iconic shot, obviously, which you can see a lot of pictures of, the big Elvis behind him, and he's there obviously performing, obviously his song, and then Tom Hanks is like getting really pissed off. But I do like the way they got the makeup, so you can't you can only take Tom Hanks by the face.
Yeah.
But they've done a really good like body transformation of him to make him look like this character, which is pretty cool. Sometimes it doesn't work. It kind of reminds me of Penguin in the Batman. But obviously that you can't really tell. It's Colin Farrell. I get confused with Farrell and Firth. Can you both change your last name so there's not an F in one of them? Kind of reminds me of that, but obviously this time you can sort of tell it's Tom Hanks. But I feel like Tom Hanks got that iconic face where no matter what you fucking do, you can sort of go, yeah, it's Tom Hanks.
Got that iconic perfect face.
I know he looks very perfect at the start of this movie. When he's just like that whole carnival scene when he's like trying to touch him on the back.
He's slowly creeped up to him with a weird smile on his face.
The moment when he corners him in the fucking Hall of Mirrors. At the start when he's watching on the fucking stairs with his family's having this moment, like this really nice moment together, and he's just there watching like
he's like, come on me on the Ferris wheel and we'll slowly go up. Oh, we stopped. What are you talking?
But it is quite interesting obviously because even on that bit obviously later on where he's got him to perform at this fucking like this place like for, I think it's like 6 weeks or something like that. It's like this hotel is like just opened. You're gonna be like the headline to draw people in, and obviously you end up like talking to the guy who owns it, and fucking he's coming up with all these plans, and he's like, "Oh, you bring him back each year, and I'll give you all this fucking money."
So I'll get rid of your gambling debt. Do all this stuff.
Yeah, he's like, it'll be wiped clean. You get even like unlimited chips, and it's the point of then him like. So that's the point where Elvis is like, okay, I'm going international now, and he's obviously then doing this persuasion of no, you're doing this. And then you're coming back here, and it's like for 4 or 5 years, something like that?
5 years. Basically, he's like...
And then the last one, he's like kind of drunk.
Fuck you.
And he's kind of basically having a go at him, and he's like... Because he call him Colonel Sanders at some point. Or something
I
like
think so.
And he's like, oh, I meant Tom Parker. And he's like, you're fired! And like, fully has a go at him. And then obviously he sort of worms his way back in by saying, oh, you fire me, you owe me all this fucking money. Like millions. He's like, you fire me, you owe me this. And it's like stupid things like the gas for the drive to the place at the start.
Yeah.
Like all this like these little tiny things that just mount up to like this ridiculous amount of money.
8 million.
I think it was about 8 million yen. At that point, obviously, it's like, oh, you'd be bankrupt, you'd be fucked. But that was his sort of way of trying to worm his way back into it. And obviously, eventually, this led to him basically popping the pills and just fully going. But yeah, it was pretty cool because it is interesting to see the rise and fall of these like iconic people, the ones you grew up listening to. Obviously, Freddie Mercury, obviously Queen, the biopic for that. It's interesting to see his rise from nothing to his fall, and obviously the case with this where he rose from basically living in the part of the town where there's basically no white people, but he's engulfed within that culture.
Yeah.
And unlike most people who'd be really racist, obviously he's basically befriended everyone. He knows a lot pretty much everyone in there. Obviously, everyone knows him.
He likes that culture. He feels more at home.
And the point when he goes back there and everyone's like high five him, shaking his hand, like congratulating him. He's signing autographs for all of them. Obviously, this is his culture now, and it's interesting that rise from that point there to obviously he's fall from obviously the top with the drugs. So that is obviously I enjoyed. Obviously, it's sad to see, but it's enjoyable at the same time to get that knowledge. Because obviously most things that are sad to see are enjoyable because you get that knowledge of it. Like, okay, this is what happened. Oh, okay, that is pretty sad, but now I've got this knowledge of it. So that's pretty.
Makes you appreciate them more.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate them more. So it's interesting to see not from his perspective, from someone else's, and do all those cool shots when it's from that perspective. Obviously in the casino, like that. Obviously this in his mind. Clearly, he's like
dying. So.
Yeah, he's in that casino. Obviously, he's putting his money into the machines constantly. So that's his way of worming himself back in at one point, wasn't it? Because he had that heart attack, and that was his way of worming himself back into the obviously Elvis's career. It's like, oh, I had this heart attack. Can we do this, please? Like that. It's just interesting to see how one person can basically just from just a few words just corrupt someone into doing something like for basically nothing. That is pretty interesting to see. I think they did a good job with all the costumes as well, matching obviously the classic Elvis jumpsuits and everything.
All the looks.
Obviously, that's one thing you need to get right if you're doing an Elvis biopic is his jumpsuits because they're his iconic things. His most iconic sort of look is the jumpsuits and the hair, and I think they did a really good job of capturing that. I liked as well that they didn't shy away from pointing out the fact that he did get to Hollywood, and they showed a lot of footage. I think they some of that footage as well was merged between actual footage and news shot footage, which is pretty cool. I like the fact that they didn't shy away from fully because they could have just focused heavily on the music and just like pointed out, oh, he did this, but they didn't. They showed the fact he went to the army. They showed the fact that he came back and was a movie star. They showed the fact that his movie star career basically went
a bit washed up,
out the window. Because I mean, he was going to do The Star Is Born, which obviously nowadays got remade with Lady Gaga. He was obviously going to do that version of that back then. Obviously, that never happened. And it was obviously shown then back to music before his career fully went because he died. So it's interesting to see obviously how much stuff he actually did. Obviously, not just the music, but everything he did.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool to see. Yeah. What else have I got here? I think I've pretty much covered most of what I wanted to say. It's just a fun movie to watch, and it's definitely one of the top biopics out there. Thanks to obviously the direction of the director. I think they chose the right director to do it. Obviously, he hasn't done anything since The Great Gatsby in like 2013. It's his first movie back since then. But obviously, he still has this record of obviously well-known films: Romeo and Juliet, Gatsby, Moulin Rouge. I think he did Australia. I'm pretty certain he did that. I think he did one more, which obviously something they plugged throughout the trailers for this at the end was like the guy who reinvented Shakespeare, the guy who reinvented the classic, and the guy who reinvented musicals. Like they plugged that in like the later trailers for this. It's Warner Brothers, of course. They're gonna fucking try and plug stuff that they probably didn't have any sort of control over. Look at the fucking Suicide Squad from the guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy. You didn't do that though. You plug in a Marvel movie here. Warner Brothers, they plug anything. But yeah, I think I've pretty much covered anything. It's just a fun biopic that's very informative.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
I think that's very heartwarming yet sad, a bittersweet film.
Yeah. Okay, then let's go to the ratings then. So, if I was to give this a rating, I was debating after I watched it when I was on the bus right back. I was there debating, what do I give this? I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I'm not gonna give it a 10. I'm not gonna be that sort of person who's just like, I'm not gonna be you going, oh, it's because it's this. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. I'm not gonna. I think it's quite high. So I'm gonna give it a golden leg, which is a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
For basically an amazing movie. I don't think it's that 10 just correctly.
Mm.
But I think it's very close.
Yeah, I'd agree. 9. I'd say 9 because it didn't have Dora. I'd put it for 10. You know, maybe some Jeff Goldblum. I'd add
See,
to it.
this is what
But
this is the shit I have to deal with. Gives it 10 out of 10 because Jeff Goldblum in it.
wouldn't you?
Clearly, I haven't.
Well, you know, it's your own fault.
So okay, it's very simple. Then it gives it a Chatter Cave, the Chatter Cave overall of 9 out of 10, all golden, which makes sense because gold records.
Makes sense.
There we go. Okay then. MVP time. I think it's pretty simple, isn't it? It's Austin Butler as Elvis.
Yeah, definitely.
He does a really good job of bringing this character.
If he was not right,
I would say if
fucked.
I'm gonna say if they didn't get him right, then it would definitely be bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they did that one a couple of years. Was it a couple of years ago? I can't remember. I think it was Elvis and Nixon. It was literally the film just based on that fucking conversation, that picture of Elvis talking to Nixon, which this doesn't actually mention, which is interesting. Yeah, they did an entire film just on that one picture where they had Michael Shannon, the guy who played General Zod, play Elvis, and Kevin Spacey played Nixon. Yep, it wasn't the greatest movie, and I don't think anyone's really captured that Elvis properly. But I think I've been told Kurt Russell did a really good job in the 70s. I've been told he did really good, so I need to check that one. But I think Austin Butler did a really good job, and as you say, if that wasn't correct. And that wasn't enjoyable, then this film would literally be in the shitter.
Definitely.
Because if he wasn't didn't have that voice or the look or the movements, I feel like it definitely would have been such a bad biopic. But he was spot on in every way possible. So, yeah, I'm gonna go Austin Butler as Elvis. Runner up. I think there's only one other runner-up that was mainly plugged in the face, which is obviously Tom Parker, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was Tom Hanks. I mean, it's weird seeing him play a villain,
but also very right.
It's very weird because say growing up, you used to seeing him as this sort of
the main good guy,
the family-friendly sort of character,
the nice guy,
basically. Yeah, as you say,
but like an actual nice guy, he turned out to be right.
So it's interesting to see this transformation to the villainous character, a character that
scumbag.
Basically, scumbag. Like when you first start meeting him, he's not fully like this scumbaggish character, but it's as soon as he gets that taste of money and fame. Because obviously, when you first meet him in that one scene in the obviously when he's with that musician, and the musician's son is the guy of X-Men, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's Nightcrawler. When you first meet him with them, he's not too bad. He's his normal bloke. But then when Elvis starts to become successful and he tastes that money a lot more, that's when he starts evolving into this guy who's like, you need me basically, or else you're not gonna go anywhere. Like the whole scene of him saying, "Oh, we're gonna make this a family business," and he's worming his way in with words that he's heard that family say, like just to get them to agree to it. Like he says that one thing to obviously his mom, saying he's got the strength for 2 people, which is something he overheard her say because obviously it talks about obviously Elvis's twin, he obviously died in the womb, and he uses these words to manipulate them, and he's like, "Oh, your dad can be like your manager," and he's worming his way in with this stuff. And it's that point when he fully becomes like this scumbag character, and Tom Hanks does a really good job at becoming a scumbag character. So yeah, it's obviously there's no one else you can really give it to because those are your 2 main characters really. Everyone else is they push the film forward and stuff they do, but none of them really shine over anyone else. Yeah. They're all at least evenish. Those are the only 2 that the movie pushes heavily, which makes sense because it's about Elvis and it's about Tom Parker manipulating him.
Yeah, the one causing the problem. It
makes sense it being Elvis your MVP and Tom Parker as your runner-up. So that does kind of make sense. Okay, that's a favourite moment. Ooh. Oh no. So yeah, for people who don't know, obviously this whole thing's a spoiler anyway. There's literally a scene where Elvis is like singing, and for some reason decides to deep throat the mic for one moment, which we both found hilarious. Oh, I'm trying to think now. Which one I would say is my favourite moment? I might have to say when he comes out in front of the big Elvis sign, when it's all dark and the thing is all the Christmassy stuff, and he comes out in front and there's that iconic shot.
Yeah.
I might have to say that because that's like just an iconic shot, and it's all part of like this really good like comeback, obviously moment on the stage, and obviously he's playing sort of really iconic ones, and he has that, and he comes out singing that, and he's singing like a really nice somber song. Because doesn't that all come from it's how a guy gets shot, isn't it? Because there's a lot of moments when he talks, obviously his reaction to famous people getting shot, obviously Martin Luther King, when he hears obviously him getting shot, and he kind of breaks down, and in that I can't remember the other guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but obviously that one
Kennedy,
something like that. Obviously gets shot as well. Obviously, he's another iconic thing to Elvis. And they're kind of like, this has everything to do with us. And obviously, Tom Hanks is like, there's nothing to do with us. Get back on that stage and get working.
Yeah.
And they're all like having this morning moment, and he's like trying to force them back to work. And obviously, he comes back with this like really nice, heartwarming song. I just can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a day. But he comes back like a really like heartwarming moment. So I might have to. I'm gonna have to just go with that because it's just iconic.
Definitely. I'd say the first time he sings on stage, when he's like,
when he's really nervous.
He's really nervous,
and that guy's
like, "Hey, you
get your hair cut."
Taking a piss out of him.
Yeah,
and then he actually properly sings fully and all that.
Yeah, he probably like goes for it. That's all right, mom. He's like fully going for it, and they're all like, and all the women start getting into it. That whole like scene of showing them all slowly like getting into it. And that one woman, he's the record label manager. She just like fully screams, all like, and he's like heavily focused on that one woman who's there trying like not to scream. And you got Tom Hanks' character there talking about, oh, she sees like the forbidden fruit in front of her, and eventually she like, fully goes into it. Yeah, that's pretty good. In the hayride, wasn't it? That's what I think the place was called, the hayride. Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, here's a question for the audience. What's your favourite Elvis song? Very interesting one. I mean, there's a lot to choose from. There's a lot of like obscure ones and there's a lot of mainstream ones. Me personally, just because I grew up heavily on it, would probably be Viva Las Vegas, because that's the one that I want. Apparently, when I used to sing it as a kid, I used to call it Biba Las Vegas, Biba Las Babas. I couldn't say the V or the L, so I used to like just replace it with B's. Either that, or just because it's like a big part of the Lilo and Stitch movies, Burning Love. Those are the two like big ones for me. Obviously, there's some other really big ones: Suspicious Minds, Hound Dog, Are You Lonesome Tonight?
Yeah.
There's such a fucking massive list I could go through of iconic ones, but it's either gonna be Viva Las Vegas for me or Burning Love. It's those two at the top. I know you can't answer that really because you're not a big.
The one that was on Just Dance. That's all I know.
Isn't that Viva Las Vegas?
No.
Which one's on Just Dance?
I can't remember. That's the problem. I was trying to remember it. I was like, I cannot remember what it's called.
That's right. That's Viva Las Vegas on Just Dance.
No, it was something else.
Just Dance.
That
House Rock, maybe?
No.
Let's Conversation.
That one.
Oh.
Conversation.
Let's Conversation. A little more action, please.
That's the one I remember.
So there's 3 Elvis songs on there. It's just Little Less Conversation, you remember? That's one from Turtles and Turtles, isn't it? The second one? Casey Jones?
Probably.
And the Turtles are in the PlayStation. And they're trying to break in and steal the ooze. That's the song they play over the top of that. That's a song that they utilise a lot of times in like heist sort of movies. Don't know why. Okay, so yeah. If you have any questions in general, if you've seen Elvis, what's your thoughts on it? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? What do you think of Austin Butler's performance as Elvis? They get it right? Do they get it wrong? Yeah, usual shit like that. I think that basically covers everything I really want to say. It's just a fucking fun film to watch. Um, you'll be enjoying the next few weeks of movies that I've picked out, Hayden.
Oh, will I?
Yep. For the next like month, till the end of August, I've got like a massive slate of really good films to cover because obviously it's just easier for me and obviously Hayden to do a lot of these podcasts than it is to try and get Connor. Obviously, I'm going to try and get him back every now and again. Obviously, and again, every now and again we might do a normal talking based podcast, so it's not a review. Obviously, like me and Connor used to do. But obviously, I've just got a slate of movies that I kind of want to cover, which obviously you'll enjoy the idea of covering. So obviously, I just want to do them first. So I'm not going to say what they are. You have to tune in next week to find out what it is. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time.
Bye.